Grace and peace, everyone. Good day. So, for today's lesson, let's talk about the humanistic psychoanalysis of Erich Fromm. Erich Fromm, the only child of Orthodox Jewish parents, during adolescence, Fromm was deeply moved by the writings of Freud and Karl Marx. The early experiences of young Fromm with the Talmudic scholars, combined with his disfavor for war and his puzzlement over the suicide of the young, beautiful, and talented artist, contributed significantly to the humanistic views of Erich Fromm. Landis and Tauber listed five important influences in Fromm's thinking. So first, teachings of humanistic rabbis; second, revolutionary spirit of Karl Marx; third, revolutionary ideas of Sigmund Freud; fourth, rationality of Zen Buddhism; and lastly, writings of Johann Bachofen on matriarchal societies. So before anything else, let us define first of what Fromm's humanistic psychoanalysis all about. So, it is a theory of personality which looks at people from a historical and cultural perspective, takes an evolutionary view of humanity, and assumes that humanity's separation from the natural world has produced feelings of loneliness and isolation. So there are basic assumptions in Fromm's theory. These are the following. First, personality can be understood in the light of human history. Humans have been turned away from their prehistoric union of nature and what Fromm called human dilemma, which is a condition wherein humans have no powerful instincts to adapt to a changing world. Instead, they have acquired the facility to reason. According to Fromm, human ability permits people to survive, but on the other hand, it forces them to attempt to solve basic insoluble dichotomies. Fromm referred to this as existential dichotomies. Existential dichotomy, it is like existential dilemma with an additional dimension. It refers to a problem that has no solution because none of the alternatives it presents is fully satisfactory. We desire immortality, but face death. We desire a certain kind of world, but we find world into which we were born unsatisfactory. Existential dichotomies are an inescapable part of life. These are the three fundamental dichotomies. First, life and death. We seek to bring these together in some way and make sense of them. How? We may believe in life after death, such as living in heaven or being reincarnated. Second, we desire complete self-realization, but recognize that we cannot reach this goal because life is short. So what we do? Consider ways we might continue to develop after death or convince ourselves that our own time on earth is the most important historical time. Third, we know that we are ultimately alone, but we can't stand isolation. So do we deal with that? Aware of being separate individuals, we try to bond with others, such as different people or other institutions, expecting that this will bring happiness and security. So now let's proceed to the human needs concept of Eric Fromm. So he believed that we have needs that go far beyond the basic physiological ones that some people, like Freud and many behaviorists, think and explain all of our behavior. So these are human needs. In contrast to the same basic animal needs, he suggested that the human needs can be expressed in one simple statement. The human being needs to find the answer to his existence. So Fromm identified five of these distinctively human or existential needs. The first, relatedness. It is a drive for union with another person or other persons, which can take the form of 1. Submission, 2. Power, and 3. Love. And love, or the ability to unite with another while retaining one's own individuality and integrity, is the only relatedness need that can solve our basic human dilemma. And the second one is the transcendence, an urge to rise above a passive and accidental existence and into the realm of purposefulness and freedom. And the third one is the rootedness, the need to establish roots and to feel at home again in the world. Productively, rootedness enables us to grow beyond the security of our mother and establish ties with the outside world. With a non-productive strategy, we became fixated and afraid to move beyond the security and safety of our mother or a mother substitute. Fourth is the sense of identity, the capacity to be aware of ourselves as a separate entity. And the last one is the frame of orientation. It is a philosophy, a consistent way of thinking, and it also refers to the goals or destinations. Now let's proceed to the concept of Freud, the burden of freedom. Freedom in its sense, though both independence and nationality, it will make a person isolated, anxious, and powerless. This isolation is unbearable, and the alternatives a person confronted with are either to escape from the burden of freedom into new dependencies and submission, or to advance to the full realization of positive freedom, which is based on the uniqueness and individuality of men. Mechanism of escape. First, the authoritarianism, tendency to give up the independence of one's own individual self and to fuse oneself with somebody or something outside oneself in order to acquire the strength which the individual is lacking, can take two forms. First, masochism. Second is sadism. Masochism results from basic feelings of powerlessness, weakness, and inferiority, and is aimed draining the self to a more powerful person or institution. In short, masochism is all about joining oneself to something more powerful to gain strength that was lacking to that certain person. Sadism, on the other hand, is more neurotic and more socially harmful. It is something gaining power over the weak by making them dependent, exploiting others for benefit and pleasure, and making others suffer physically or physiologically. Another one is destructiveness. It is rooted in the feelings of loneliness, isolation, and powerlessness. It does not depend on a continuous relationship with another, but seeks to eliminate people or things from our lives. So if it or they do not exist, it can't be hurt. In a simple way, by destruction, people restore feelings of power. We also have conformity. We give up our individuality to become whatever other people desires us to be. Conformity might like reactive or acts like robots. We also have positive freedom, a solution to human dilemma, represents overcoming of loneliness, achieving union with the world, and maintain individuality. And also, people can attain this kind of freedom, which is called positive freedom, by spontaneous and full expression of both their rational and emotional potentialities. Let's tackle the orientations or character orientations or personality type. So let's talk about first the non-productive orientations. These are the strategies that fail to move people closer to positive freedom and self-realization. But actually, let's remember that this is not entirely negative. In non-productive orientation, we have first receptive. The receptive type is characterized by a need for constant support from others. So the only way they can relate to the world is by receiving things. They are more concerned with receiving than giving. Another is exploitative. The exploitative type is willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate others in order to get what they need. We also have hoarding. The hoarding type copes with insecurity by never parting with anything. They are the ones who hold everything inside and do not let go of anything. We also have marketing. So the marketing type looks at relationships in terms of what they can gain from the exchange. They are dependent on the ability to sell themselves. Personal security rests on shaky grounds. Again, those are the non-productive orientations. So now let's proceed to the productive orientation. In productive orientation, there are three dimensions. First is working. So working as a means of creative self-expression. Another is loving, concerned with the growth and development of themselves as well as others. Another one is reasoning or thinking, which cannot be separated from productive work and love. And now at this very moment, let's talk about the personality disorders. It talks about people who are incapable of love and uniting with others. So these are necrophilia. Necrophilia is any attraction to death. It hates humanity, and destructive behavior is a manifestation of their basic character. Now let's talk about malignant narcissism. So what is malignant narcissism? Malignant narcissism in its simple term is infatuation with self. It impedes the perception of reality so that everything belonging to a narcissistic person is valued and everything belonging to another is devalued. Now let's come to incestuous symbiosis. So it is an extreme dependence on the mother or mother substitute. Feel extreme anxious or frightful if the symbiotic relationship is challenged. And also, it distorts an individual's reasoning powers, destroys the capacity for authentic love, and prevents people from achieving independence and integrity. Psychotherapy may be in the form of dream analysis, interviews, questionnaires, projective techniques, and psychohistory. In addition to this, the goal of Fromm's psychotherapy was to work with satisfaction of the basic human needs of relatedness, transcendence, rootedness, a sense of identity, and a frame of orientation. The therapist tries to accomplish this through shared communication in which the therapist is simply a human being rather than a scientist. Example for this is the anthropological study of Fromm, which is the study of life in a Mexican village, and a psychobiographical analysis of Adolf Hitler. So again, one example is the social character in a Mexican village, wherein the study of social character in an isolated farming village in Mexico found evidence of all character orientations except the marketing one. So another example is the psychohistorical study of Hitler. So Fromm applied the techniques of psychohistory to study Hitler. Unlike some psychoanalysts who look only to early childhood for clues to adult personality, Fromm believed that each stage of development is important and that nothing in Hitler's early life bent him inevitably toward the syndrome of decay. That would be all. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you have learned something out from the presentation. It is my prayer for all of you to have a good health and always be safe.